Alright, so this is game 1 of my Rayav Commander Legends draft. Heavily abridged for watchability's sake. I know I don't have time to watch an hour and a half Commander game, so I'm just going to do a recap here. Alright, so awkward starting hand here, so I'm going to mulligan that. This is a little better, because I have both colors of my mana and stuff to do. So I have the option to play my Commander on 2 or play Marble Diamond and try and accelerate into more spells earlier. I go with the Marble Diamond. Nothing really interesting happens until turn 3 when I get attacked for 1, first damage of the game. So I get attacked for 1 and then play Court Cartographer, going up to, or ramping again, but drawing more lands, so that's probably a mistake. Next turn I decide to pressure the Tago opponent, seeing if they're going to block, which clearly they're not going to. I play the wrong land here. I should have played the Opal Palace and then played Rayav with a counter on it, and then put the counter on there to keep it out of rock damage, but I just completely blank on that. So here opponent B is attacking opponent C with the Slith Ascendant, and after it connects with the trigger on the stack, opponent A is going to kill it so that it doesn't start climbing out of range of his rock damage, which is pretty smart. I'm just glad he's not targeting my Rav. So just a little more board development from everyone. Opponent C just plays Defiant Salvager and sacrifices a thing. So I finally draw an equipment and play my Opal Palace. I'm just gonna equip my biggest creature here and start sending big power attackers around the board, starting with opponent B, apparently. Generally early I try to spread the damage around as much as possible. He's just gonna chump block with Sailor Means. Here I'm just admiring the opponent A's Tago and Nadir deck and the many synergies he has. He's got a really sweet deck. As the rock tokens trigger both Nadir and Nadir's guy there. Alright, so I draw Candy's Lieutenant. I'm going to start off with an attack. Just, again, attacking around the board. Alright, I think I attack the same opponent here, actually. Right, I do. And then I just pass the turn because, just in case there's a Wrath or something like that, I didn't want to commit to the board too much, and I'm not really doing a whole lot. So just playing a bunch of creatures doesn't really help me. Alright, so here, opponent B is gonna copy his Orzhov Advocist, which is pretty sweet, which means everyone's going to be able to put 4 counters on during his upkeep, and basically nobody's going to want to attack him ever. So my turn to draw Angel of the Dawn and just immediately play it. It gives me some more presence in the air, and also lets me attack without any real risk. So I am gonna play my Candy's Lieutenant afterwards, because that just gives me a good clock in the air to start sending around the board. Obviously, I put counters on so I can't attack opponent B, so I just send one at each of my other opponents. Oh.
Apparently, the UK government has asked
Candy's Lieutenant,
to include a disclaimer at the beginning
and
of
then I
the
equip
round stating that it is a
Rav.
work of fiction.
So opponent A is gonna play Thorn of the Black Rose and put the Monarch in play, which makes things interesting. Immediately after, opponent B plays Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist, which lets them equip all their equipments and auras to different things on their combat step. So after playing Angelic Armaments, they turn their Sakashima Orzhov Advocist into a giant flyer, take the Monarch. And since we're all putting counters on things, we basically just can't take the Monarch from them, so that's pretty good. So opponent C decides to Encore and just, pretty sure immediately sacrifices everything rather than attacking anyone. Which I guess makes sense. He just wants to get the tokens and he's got no real good attacks. Or he could have attacked opponent A and maybe gotten a trade or something, but I guess he wasn't interested in that. So it just grows his Yuri and Defiant Salvager up real big, and then attacks me with the dragon and Yuri. I'm gonna chump the Yuri and just take some damage from the dragon here rather than try and trade off with my flyers. Definitely not worth it. Alright, I draw another land. I play Captain's Call just so I have a chump blocker for the big big ground creatures. And then I'm gonna crack back at opponent C with my 2 flyers for some pretty good damage. I believe we deal 14 here. So opponent deals 2 to the Salvager, and then gives all creatures -4/-4, like wiping almost the entire board and giving himself the Monarch, which is a good way to get it back while still getting counters from these Advocates. But that does leave me with basically nothing at all, which is a bit awkward. So I gotta load up my Rayav just to make him scary. Opponent plays Alharu and gets the Monarch back. And then Yuri's going to come across at me again. Apparently didn't like the 14 damage. Then attacks me and sweeps the board with a Necrotic Hex. So this has been a pretty huge swing of return. I'm left with nothing. One opponent has 6 zombies and one opponent has 7 cards. And the other opponent has a bunch of equipment. Fortunately, he doesn't deal the 13 damage with Yuri to me. It sends it at opponent B, as they are like by far the highest life total and evens things out a bit. So I've got a couple Encore creatures at least, and I can just replay Rayav with the Opal Palace this time. Then I can play the Anointer and just pass. Or never mind, I go for the Encore just to get Rayav out of some kind of range. And luckily, since I'm not allowed to attack opponent B, I can still send that token somewhere else, because it says that you only attack that opponent if able. Otherwise, you can send it other places. So I sent two over at opponent A, and then 1 over at opponent C, hoping I don't anger him too much and he doesn't send all the zombies at me. Alright, after a little bit of development from everybody, opponent C tries to play a Volcanic Dragon, which is a pretty big threat on this board, and opponent B counters it with Forceful Denial. The card's such a big swing. Countering a big spell and getting a Cascade is just really powerful. And he gets another flyer out of it as well. So we're all pretty grateful for that. And the army of zombies goes at opponent B, trying to take the Monarch, which he does. They trade two of the 1/1s off for a 2/2, which is probably fine, I guess. And I draw Alharu, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, I only have 10 mana, so I can't play both cards in my hand. So I just play the Anointer and equip and pass the turn. Alright, opponent B goes to attack opponent C, and opponent C thinks they're going to get him with the Ghastly Demise, but opponent B counters another one of their spells by giving it protection from black at instant speed, putting them down to 10. So life totals are getting really low now. Alright, I draw another Anointer, but this time I go for Kanji's Lieutenant, just hoping to deal a bunch of damage here, hoping to take Monarch. Although I'll just get chump blocked if I'm only sending one creature over at opponent B. Unfortunately, I didn't really account for the rock on opponent A's side there, and they're able to kill my creature before the triggers resolve, and the Kanji's Lieutenant gets bigger. I'm pretty sure if they didn't have the rock there, I was gonna finish them by putting a counter on it with Anointer. It would have been up to 6 power, double strike. But I get a jump block there, and I do 4 damage to opponent C. Opponent C feels like they're pretty much out of the game at this point. After opponent B develops little, opponent C uses their Solvent at end of turn to take out one of their creatures. Like I said, they feel like they're pretty much out of this game at this point, and they said so in chat. But just wait till you see what happens next. So obviously it looks kind of like a kamikaze attack, like they're just trying to do whatever they can, maybe draw an instant speed removal spell to keep them alive from one attack. But they actually rep another necrotic hex, wiping the board again and giving themselves 6 more zombies. So that's pretty good for them. And also they got the Monarch. So opponent A is the only other person with creatures. They got five tokens, which is also pretty good. And I just play 2 creatures and pass. So opponent A encores. Goes attacking. Presumably to take the Monarch and also take out opponent B, because opponent B is tapped out. Yeah, for a long time it looked like opponent B was going to run away with it, but they didn't take the Monarch there, and I draw another land, which is a little awkward, but I've still got some things to do, so it's not too bad. So I just play Anointer and pass. Nice. I attack opponent C, basically just trying to take the Monarch, but they just jump block. And I sit back and hope not to die. So opponent A just develops their board a bit. And then opponent C kills one of my creatures at end of turn. And I presume an Alpha Strike is coming here, but they don't quite have enough damage to take me out. They would leave me at 1, but then they would leave themselves completely defenseless. So they just pass the turn. I draw another land. Now, I can kill opponent C, and I do make a slight miscalculation here, forgetting about opponent A's Encore creature in the graveyard. Like if they didn't have the Encore creature and I attack with 1 creature, I can live at 1 here as well. But with the Encore creature over on opponent A's side, they are able to crack back for lethal after I finish off opponent C. Opponents were all pretty good though, all pretty good sports. Had a pretty good time. I felt like I never really got anything going during this game, but still managed to survive till the end, which is alright. The board was swept 3 different times. I thought playing aggro and commander was going to just be straight awful, but it actually wasn't. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please let me know if this was good. If you like this format. Yeah. Like and subscribe, that stuff. Cool. Thanks, bye.